Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today I got a review for you guys of the Manix 2. Now I know what most of you guys might be thinking. Whoa. All right, you posted a Manix video a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and that is true. But that version of the knife was so different than this version. Just in my mind, these two knives are so different. And I'm gonna bring that 15V Manix here for you guys. These knives are obviously the same design. They have the same, cuts and stuff like that. They look basically the same, but they couldn't be more different. Aesthetics aside, these knives are very different knives and kind of fill different tasks in my life. I don't want to get too heavily into that right now, obviously, save it for the review, but I just figured I'd throw this out there for those of you who are like, oh my God, you're reviewing the same knife, 2 weeks apart. That's crazy. No, it's primarily because I would like my viewers to be able to see and compare and contrast kind of my opinions on both these knives, because even though they are the same design, they're going to get a lot of the same praise and stuff like that. They're so different in what I use them for and what kind of tasks I use them for. So figured I'd throw that out there just before people start typing in the comments like, oh, you're reviewing the same knife this close apart. Yeah, I am doing it. It's my channel. I can do what I want. But anyways, I'll address the elephant in the room as well. I got a new desk. The other desk was so shiny, and although it gave me more space because it was a large desk, this desk is substantial enough to where I can set up my filming stuff here. So this is a new background. I like it. I hope I can keep using it. Obviously, if the comments really hated it, I can always move back to that black mat. But anyways, I digress. Let's get into this knife, shall we? I think before we start anything, though, we need to do a bit of a size comparison. So obviously, you got to start with the classic PM2. This is that CPM-S110V version. That was my very first PM2 there. And then here's the Shaman. And if you guys weren't here 2 weeks ago when I posted the first Manix 2 video, I am calling it a Shaman. People made fun of me too many times. I got bullied too many times and couldn't take it. So there you guys go. There's that size comparison there. And then I'll also bring in a couple non-Spideys. I think first, 80-20.5. This is that 3V version I reviewed, I think, a year or two ago. But this is rocking those Peel Ply Texture G10 scales, and it actually is titanium standoffs there instead of that red Griffey backspacer. I don't know if these are actually called standoffs. I've been calling them standoffs every single time I bring this knife into a video, or anytime I talk about a knife that has standoffs. So if you guys could, oh, sorry about that. I accidentally tapped the screen. But if you guys could tell me, are those back spacers or not back spacers? Sorry. Are those standoffs or are those barrel spacers? I please give me answers in the comments, because I am oblivious apparently. And then here's the 940 Osborne. That's just that standard aluminum version with the S30V. So there you guys go. And then kind of just a hint at what's to come, because I do have an idea of what review I'm going to do next. I mean, unless the comments say they absolutely hate the idea, but it is what it is. This is the Griptilian. There you guys go. Pretty similar in size, with the Griptilian coming in just slightly taller. And I figure if we're going to bring out the Griptilian, you got to bring out the Doug Ritter RSK MK1 G2, obviously. And if you're going to bring out those two, you might also be inclined to bring out the H&K Exemplar, also made by Hogue. Very similar knives we got going on here, obviously with the outlier kind of being this guy here. But yeah, I figured these two are about the same size. This guy's a little bit bigger, so he's quite a bit bigger than this guy. But there you guys go. A little Griptilian trio, or Griptilian-esque trio size comparison with the Manix 2 lightweight. There you guys go. Right on. I think with all that out of the way, I think it's time to get started. Let's talk about what I like and don't like about this knife, and if I can recommend it for you guys. So right off the bat, we're going to start in the same place I usually start. We're going to talk about the blade, of course. Now, something I touched on a lot in the Manix 2 15V version video is I talked a lot about the blade shape and how the blade shape and the steel really complemented each other. I'm going to do that again, this time trying not to waste as much as try not to waste as much of your guys' time. So this blade shape is just so perfectly slicey. It's a full flat that comes down to a paper thin edge. Are you guys nervous right now, by the way, with that knife right there? I'm a little nervous myself, but you got a paper thin edge right there because it's just that deep full flat. And then you also have a little bit of a distal taper that comes all the way down to a super fine tip. Really good working tip. I love that a lot. I also like the finish they went with the blade. I think it's just a just regular satin, but I don't know. I really like how it looks. It looks very uniform, even though I bet it's probably not all that uniform. But for me, when I look at this blade, I actually think it has a sense of elegance to it because of those grind lines. They just look real purposeful, and I just enjoy it a lot. I think it looks really neat. I like how that blade looks. I like the grind. What can I say? I like the grind lines. Of course, just like the last Manix, I love the size of the Spidey hole. I love the jimping back here and the jimping here. I love the finger choil. And I love that it's made in America, made in the USA, Golden, Colorado. Really, really awesome stuff. Can always appreciate that. And something I didn't really comment on the last one, I think I did comment on it. I just didn't talk about it a lot. But the blade thickness is kind of perfect because when you have a thin blade, right, and you put your thumb on a thumb ramp, it's not going to feel great, right? I'll actually give you guys an example here. This is the Spyderco chaparral here. This is that XHP chaparral from Taiwan Taichung. One of their better and more popular models, I would say. But this knife is very thin, paper thin almost. I mean, you can see the difference in thickness like that, right? I find this knife, it's hard to bog down with your thumb because of how thin the blade is. It's not the most comfortable thing ever. But having a blade that's not too thick, not too thin, makes it just right for your thumb and allows the knife to come down to a super thin edge. So I really do appreciate that. It's something I didn't really talk about in the last review and something I feel like I should really bring up because it's something I enjoy. The S110V is awesome. It's a high edge retention steel, very similar to obviously like the 15V. It's a steel that's like a good edge retention steel. Now I'm not saying S110V has edge retention comparable to 15V because 15V is like a mythical level edge retention steel, but this steel has good edge retention, better than 20CV, better than M390, you know, and it's a great edge retention steel. I really do like it a lot, and it's been working very well in my day-to-day life. Being what it is, high edge retention, it is also still stainless. It is a stainless high edge retention steel. That was my one big complaint with 15V was because it wasn't stainless, which made me a little uncomfortable about carrying it in my pocket every day, especially because I kind of live in a little bit of a humid environment, not to mention because now it's spring, it's starting to get a little warmer here and it's raining every so often. It's just humid here, so I can't really carry stuff like 15V, but S110V, it's down for the challenge. So I really do like that. And like I was talking about before, that brings out the difference of these two knives for me. This knife is a great around the house user for me. I don't really put it in my pocket all that often. It's a knife that I keep open until I'm done with the chore. I'll close the knife, might throw it in my pocket, might just go put it back in its case, whatever. I'll get what I can out of it while I can, right? I'll get as much work out of it in a day as I can. But this knife I take out of the house constantly. This is a knife that if I know I'm going to work and I know they're going to have me break down some boxes. They're going to have me do something that's going to require me to open a knife and cut a lot of stuff. Of course, I'm going to bring this knife. Not only will it make quick work of anything that you put in front of it, but it's not going to lose its edge after a day. Hell, it's probably not even going to lose its edge after like a month. This thing is crazy high edge retention. In fact, I've had this thing for almost a year now, and I've only had to touch up the edge with a strop one time. This knife edge is crazy. And the S110V is just a crazy, crazy steel. And I honestly think, just like with the 15V, I think the Manix is like the perfect use of the steel because of how slicey that blade is. Anyways, moving down, I'm not usually a big fan of FRN, but I will tell you now, I love this color of FRN. And I love how much variety companies like Spyderco have been, you know, working with FRN. They've been putting a lot of variety into it, working a lot of variety into it. I mean, just throwing out a couple of colors here. You know, there's the gray. There's this dragonfly in H1. It's got the yellow. I think that's kind of a neat color. One of my all-time favorite knives that I'm so excited to bring to the channel sooner rather than later. This is the Special Edition Rex 45 Native 5 in the white FRN, which the white FRN might be my favorite. Might be my #1 favorite FRN. And then, of course, you know, it does come in black. You got all these different colors of the rainbows. I will say this blue might be my favorite. If not for the white, I would say the blue is probably my favorite. But there's a lot of variety to the FRN, and that's something I can appreciate, right? You're not limited to one color. With some handle materials, you're kind of limited to what kind of colors you can get, but FRN's not that way. So that's kind of a neat thing. But moreover, this FRN I actually do enjoy a little bit more than most, because if you guys have seen my channel, when I reviewed the Endura, I actually just had that guy out here. When I reviewed the Endura, I talked about, like, okay, I'm not a big fan of FRN. I've never been a big fan, but Spyderco just does something so right with their FRN, and this is no different. It's still ergonomic. You'd think, looking at it, you're like, that looks super blocky. And I mean, it is to an extent, but it's actually really nice in the hand. And this dual texturing, this dual texturing like jimping they have all over the knife, it's actually really nice. It's not too abrasive. If you're wearing gloves, it's amazing. It's spectacular. So that's really, really great. And I can really, really get behind this FRN, at least when compared to a lot of others. Moving on, you guys can see this little circle, this Spyderco circle here, which I love that they did this design coming out of the circle with the spider in it. I think that's such a cool thing. But this actually serves a practical purpose. If I flip the knife around, you can see the wire clip falls right on that. So this thing slips in and out of the pocket so smoothly. There's no getting caught on the lip of your pants or anything like that. This little smooth section that they decided to put in is actually extremely, extremely helpful. And I can appreciate the fact that they turned something that usually looks kind of ugly into actually something that looks kind of neat. You know, it's got a Spyderco logo on it. And although, you know, I talk about it all the time, knives, billboarding, you know, logos and stuff like that, at this point, it's like, at least it's not just like this random smooth circle, right? It gives the handle something. So I actually do like that, and I do appreciate that they actually put pads on both sides. Or not pads, but smooth sections on both sides. I suppose while we're talking about the smooth sides for the clip, we might as well talk about the clip. Now, I do have one little gripe with this, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but for the most part, it's not a hot spot for me. When I carry this thing and I use it, it's not at all a hot spot, and it makes going in and out of the pocket super easy. This is one of my favorite Spyderco clips. I love every Spyderco wire clip there is because they're so nice. They're so useful, and they're so much better than that just standard clip they always use. It's just an easier clip at the end of the day. It's a better all-around clip, and that's just my opinion, of course. And this wire clip is honestly really, really nice and has really good tension. It's not too bad. It's not too little. It's just right where I like it. So that's really, really awesome. Another thing that some of you might be just completely in awe about, this is serviceable. Most of you probably know that, you know, the Manix 2 lightweight for the longest time was not serviceable. And I was lucky enough to get in on one of the first versions of the knife to actually get the serviceable screws. I went into my knife shop and they had one, and I looked at it and I talked to the guy. I was like, is this an off-brand Spyderco? Is this not a real Spyderco? And he's like, what do you mean? And I showed him the serviceable screws, told him like, no Spyderco has serviceable screws. And I was told that they had come out with serviceable screws. And after doing some research, found out that every single Manix 2 lightweight model had been upgraded to serviceable screws. So that is a big thumbs up from me. I love that, love that, love that. I cannot say it enough because it's a sign that they actually listen to their customer base. It's something that you don't see with a lot of companies, but when you do see it from companies, especially big companies like Spyderco, you can really, really appreciate it. And I definitely appreciate it. And then I feel like the big thing, and the thing I'll probably wrap up with here, the lock. The lock's still amazing. I still love it. I still find it super duper nice. But I will say, I find this lock on this knife to be even better than the one on the Manix 2 full weight. The one on the full weight is still good. It's still the same lock, and it's still smooth. As you guys can see, I'm kind of struggling because I'm behind a camera and like a bunch of other film equipment right now, but it's nice, it's smooth, but it's not Manix 2 lightweight smooth. Did you guys see that? Thing will put your finger in there, cut it right off. I'm not giving this thing any wrist. I'm just letting it fall. So buttery smooth. I love that. I love that. I love that. It was like this out of the box, guys. It didn't even need a break-in period. It was just like that from the get-go. That is crazy, and it is so smooth, and it is the #1 best part of this knife. It's the reason why I carry this knife so frequently, is just because when I get fidgety with these knives, this is easily my favorite knife to get fidgety with because it just falls shut. I love that. Really awesome stuff, and especially a knife with FRN handles to make the action that smooth seems nearly impossible, but of course, nothing's impossible for Spyderco, it seems. Anyways, that was kind of a long ramble about what I like about this knife, but now we're going to get into what I don't like about this knife, and I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible because some of the things I don't like about this guy were the same that I didn't like about the 15V Manix 2 full weight. So with this guy, I will say, just like the other one, it's not going to be the toughest steel ever. You got to be careful. You can't go around cutting staples in half. Can't go around smacking this thing against a tree. The S110V, it's a high edge retention, but it's also a high heat treat steel. So it's not super brittle. I've definitely seen these knives go through some hell. S110V knives go through hell, but at the same time, like, it is still a brittler steel. You have to be careful with it. You don't necessarily have to baby it, but you definitely have to watch what you're cutting. Obviously, cardboard's always going to be fine. I've cut cardboard for like however many months I've had this guy, and I use this guy, multiple times a week sometimes, and I mean, I've never had a chip, I've never had a roll, everything's been fine, but I've only really been cutting cardboard with it. Cardboard and tape, that's it. But again, it's not going to be the toughest thing ever. Just be careful what you're using to cut this guy with. Obviously that should be how it is with every single steel anyways, but with this steel in particular, just kind of watch what you're cutting. Something I touched on in the other Manix, the unnecessary jimping here, it's really not as bad here. In fact, it's much less of a complaint. That's why I'm kind of getting it off early. It's not that big of an issue on this because it's a little more subtle. And it's back here. It's a lot more subtle on this guy than it was on the other, but it's still something that I'm like, why is this here? Why are you putting this right where my my pinky and my ring finger are. It's like they don't need that jimping there. I don't need it. I got jimping up here. I got jimping back here. This is all I need. I don't need this stuff here. It's just not comfortable, especially when I'm bogging down on this guy. Luckily, because this is more of a cardboard cutter and tape cutter, it really doesn't get bogged down on too often, I'll be honest. So it's not something that really bugs me that much, but it's something I'm going to bring to light. The FRN little cage, ball bearing cage right there on this ball bearing lock, which, by the way, I didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, this is the ball bearing lock. In case I didn't say that, it's going to be a little more stout than the Omega springs and most crossbar style locks. So you're going to get a lot more strength out of it. Love that. I figured I wouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it anyways, just in case some of you didn't watch my Manix 2 15V version video, but is what it is. But anyways, it's, the cage is made out of like an FRN plastic. You know, it's not great. I still don't like it on this guy. It's a little more acceptable on this guy than it is on the other. Just because the whole handle is FRN anyway, so plastic over the cage is not that big of a deal. But it's still something I'm like, yeah, I don't like that very much. I mean, even most of these lightweight knives, they still have steel locks, but this is the only one that gets the plastic lock. So it's just meh. It's just meh. Something that's always going to give me a little bit of a gripe, but it's not that big of a thing. And then I think, honestly, the only big thing for me with this knife is the clip. Now, I know I said I like the clip, and I do. I do like the clip, but nothing makes me more upset than Spyderco making us think that this was going to be a loop over clip, just for it to not be a loop over clip. I really wanted this to be a deep carry clip, and when I bought it, when I was going into the store, I knew what I wanted to get. I was like, I'm going to get a Manix 2 today. I don't know what steel I'm going to get it in, but I'm going to get it. I was between the Spy 27 and this version. I go into the store. I thought they were deep carry clips, but when I picked up the knife and I flipped it over, I saw it wasn't deep carry. I was like, that's such a letdown. It's like, why wouldn't you make it deep carry? I mean, especially when you have the PM3 that has a deep carry clip, right? Like, here's the PM3 right here. The PM3 has a loop over deep carry clip. So why doesn't this guy have a deep carry clip? I don't know. Kind of made me a little upset. It's the only thing that I'm kind of salty about with this knife, because I was hoping they would use this clip. I really, really was. And they didn't. I was like, shoot, man. But again, I still like the clip. It was just kind of a letdown. It was the only big thing about this knife that really let me down. It's the only thing that I'm honestly, out of every bad thing I've mentioned, I can easily get over it. But that clip just really left a bad taste in my mouth. I was so sad. But anyways, wrapping up here, the only thing I can really say is I'm not a huge fan of the FRN handles. You know, it's the one thing I always complain about, but I get it. It really dropped the price down. I think I paid $140 for this knife, and for this steel, which is kind of a premium steel, not kind of, it is a premium steel, but it's on these FRN handles. They were able to take that price down pretty handsomely. So I really did pretty handsomely. I think I meant heftily, but I said handsomely for some reason. I'm sorry, guys. It's a long day. You know, I work today and stuff, so of course, foot's in my mouth and everything. But I'm usually going to complain about the FRN handles. It brought the price down. I'm not going to complain about it near as much. I mean, I felt the same way about the Hogue Deca, right? It took the price down. I'm not going to complain that much. I will say, though, this FRN is not necessarily, or this FRN handle is not necessarily my favorite. I love the Delica and Endura FRN because it's rounded all over the place. This guy's a little squared. As you guys can see, there's not a lot of rounding. Now, obviously, the edges, there's no sharp edges or anything like that, but it's just not as rounded or contoured as I would have hoped. Bringing back the Endura real fast, they did really well at contouring certain parts, at least like where the hot spots usually are, here. They really contoured things for you. This knife, they didn't. I really wish they would have. It would have definitely aided in the knife's overall comfort, but for the most part, it doesn't bug me that much. I end up using this guy and just completely forgetting that, completely forgetting that the handle's even FRN, because when you're locked in, you're just cutting. You're not worried about what materials your knife is made out of. So there you guys go. Anyways, wrapping up, I can absolutely recommend this knife for you guys in any version. I would say if you're going to get a version of this knife in the lightweight configuration, get the Spy 27 version. I don't know, do they have an S30 30VN? Or 30V, excuse me, not 30VN, 30V. Do they have an S30V version? I don't know. Get this in the S30V if they have it. Get it in the Spy 27. I know they have that. The S110V, get that. And I did recently see that Blade HQ is releasing an M4 version of this guy. And not gonna lie, I'm kind of fighting myself right now on getting that, especially now that Original Goat has made some replacement scales for it. I would love to get some replacement scales in an M4 blade. God, I would use the heck out of that thing. But yeah, absolutely can recommend this knife in any version you guys want, any flavor you would want. Every steel works best for different people. You know, not everybody's gonna find as much use out of this S110V as I did. But yeah, absolutely. I will say, I recommend the Brother 2. If you're a bigger fan of G10 and fully lined knives, this knife comes in all the same steels this guy does. I think aside from the Spy 27, but the cool thing is I'm pretty sure they're releasing a Spy 27 version of this guy. I recently saw in their 2024 knife release catalog, I saw that they were releasing a couple knives in Spy 27. I didn't see if it was this one or not, but if it is, there you go. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Sorry it took so long for this post to get out. I've been a little busy with work and stuff, but I do hope you guys enjoyed. And of course, thank you.